We as a channel are returning to the world of Thedas, a land of dragons, magic and darkness, and with the fictional world being so complex, we thought a good place to start would be looking at the basics that make this world what it is. Hi, it's Rima from MEOdyssey, and this is the first part of a mini-series that will aim to break down and look at the basics of the world of Thedas, specifically for those of you who aren't as familiar with the Dragon Age series. The mini-series will look at the different races of Thedas, the different organizations, magic and its role, and finally the Wardens and the BLIGHT. So let's look at part 1 and the different races that make up the world of Thedas in Dragon Age. Probably the most relatable race to the players, humans also have the largest population in Thedas, stretching across the lands. However, they are also seemingly a young race compared to the others, with the teachings of some of the other races such as the elves and dwarves noting a time where there were no humans. This can be backed up with the fact that humans have never known a time where the Veil did not exist, the mystical barrier between the waking world and the otherworldly place known as the Fade. As humans spread across the land, different cultures started to arise. For example, certain tribes eventually formed the Tevinter Imperium, and similarly in the south, kingdoms such as Orlais and Ferelden took root. Though most humans are deemed Andrastian, those who follow the teachings of the Chantry, this can take on different forms. In the southern states, the Chantry is led by a female divine who helps guide religious and also political situations in Thedas. In Tevinter, the Chantry replaced the old religion that used to worship a group of dragon-like creatures known as the Old Gods. However, this replaced Chantry did not follow the same path as the southern Chantry, with more opposition to its rise. It also has very different, varying views on magic. Though the Chantry is definitely the most dominant religion in Thedas, others do exist. For example, the elves worship old elven gods, certain tribes of humans called Avar worship gods that represent different aspects of nature and weather, and some humans are converted to worship the Qun, the dominant QUNARI religion. With so many different nations, humans do not recognize one united leader. Tevinter is ruled by the Archon. Not this Archon, but he's normally a traditional, powerful mage that inherits the throne through his bloodline. Orlais is led by an emperor or empress, however Orlais is also the birthplace of the Chantry and the home of the Divine. Another prominent leader to the whole of Thedas, and in particular the Templars, the order that protect Thedas against magic. The Free Marches tend to govern themselves with many separate leaders and governments, and Ferelden is ruled by a king or queen, with a hierarchy following that dictates rank and rule. This is dictated by land-owning, military strength, and bloodlines. Think more along the lines of Game of Thrones. Probably the oldest race in Thedas, and at one point the dominant race, the Elves once had a great civilization built on magic and raw nature, as well as a strong connection to the Fade, making them seemingly immortal. However, the Elves suffered a massive fall from grace, supposedly at the hands of Tevinter, who attacked their empire and forced the Elves into slavery. As well as their connection with the Fade and magic being severed, thought to be linked with the arrival of man, as the Elves tried to rebuild, they couldn't return back to their age of glory, losing their culture and becoming in most regards submissive to the human population. Most Elves then integrated within the human population, either living in poor alienages as city elves or as slaves in Tevinter. Others can also be found as part of the Dalish clans, those who choose to live more like their ancestors, more one with nature and definitely more cautious, understandably so, of humans, or Shemlins as they call them. Though most elves adopted whatever religion was dominant in their region, i.e. the Chantry or the Qun, there's also a lot of respect for the elven gods of old. Consisting of 9 gods, the Evanuris, much is unknown of how these gods were actually worshipped during the old times. These gods were Elgarnan, the god of vengeance, Mithal, the great protector and goddess of love, Falandin, the god of death and fortune, Dirthamen, the god of secrets and knowledge, Siles, the hearthkeeper, June, the god of crafts, Gilmanane, the mother of Hala, and Fenharal, the dread wolf. Primarily living in their subterranean kingdom of Orzammar, dwarves are an industrious and proud people who act as the only real barrier against darkspawn attacks on the surface. The ancient dwarven kingdom was thought to be immense, with their networks known as the Deep Roads supposedly stretching across Thedas and even possibly beyond. Dwarves are also immune to lyrium, a vital and volatile substance found underground that helps enhance magical abilities and is used by mages and Templars alike. This allows dwarves with the unlikely ability to mine lyrium, the primary industry for Orzammar. However, this resistance to lyrium has other side effects such as a lower fertility and inability to use magic or even dream. Much like the other kingdoms, the dwarven hierarchy is very much influenced by families, money, and politics. Orzammar is made up of different castes, which dictates what a dwarf can do in society. For example, the warrior caste, merchant caste, or smith caste. There are also dwarves who are casteless, who fall at the bottom of the hierarchy. The noble caste make up the leadership of Orzammar, which is where the king comes from. Surface dwarves, those either born on the surface or chose to even look at the surface, have no standing in Orzammar. Thought to be the descendants of the Kosith before they embraced the Qun, the QUNARI technically describes all those who follow the teachings of the Qun, but is commonly used to describe the race of horned, large humanoid creatures. The Qun strongly dictates most facets of the QUNARI culture, such as partners, roles in society, and removes personal identities for those who follow. The QUNARI culture is based on military strength, but also one of intelligence. They pride themselves on gathering information and knowledge on many things: history, technology, and in particular their enemies, specifically their main rivals in Tevinter, who they've had a long-standing war with. With this knowledge, the QUNARI are highly skilled, knowledgeable, and very, very advanced. Their hierarchy isn't as clear in the Qun as it is in the rest of Thedas. However, the QUNARI can be seen somewhat being led by the Triumvirate, three figures who act together to provide the QUNARI with a quote-unquote full body. You have the Arashok, who leads the military, the Arjina, who governs the craftsmen, and the Arkun, who is the head of the priesthood, who helps dictate the laws of the Qun. Though not a race in the same sense as the others in this video, the Darkspawn do play a pivotal role in Thedas, and also have some form of hierarchy. Creatures found deep underground, they are tainted by the BLIGHT, a corruption that causes sickness and death in living creatures. The origins of the Darkspawn vary between all the races, with Chantry stating they were created when ancient Tevinter magisters, the pinnacle of mage leadership in Tevinter, entered the Fade and inadvertently tainted it, returning as Darkspawn. Dwarves believe the Darkspawn were born underground, and Tevinter wholly refused the legend of any Tevinter magister ever entering the Fade. Darkspawn don't really have laws and rules, living to corrupt and fight. However, during a BLIGHT, they follow the orders of an archdemon who seems to coordinate their attacks. Much like the Darkspawn, spirits and demons are not thought of in the same way as other central races in Thedas, but play a huge role in the world of Dragon Age. Native to the Fade, both do not normally take on physical form, however there have been exceptions to this. Spirits and demons take on specific roles, however their roles are what truly separate them. Spirits, who can cause harm, tend to have more virtuous roles, such as justice, valor, wisdom, and faith, whereas demons take on roles that feed on the world's impulses, such as pride, desire, rage, envy, sloth, and hunger. Spirits and demons can also infiltrate the minds of those who enter the Fade, such as mages, those who try and summon them, and those who are susceptible, such as those who are very, very desperate. This allows them to share knowledge, influence their view of the Fade, and in terms of demon, corrupt you. Spirits tend to enter the world freely, looking to learn and explore. However, demons cannot enter the waking world without attaching to a person, hence demonic possession, which can prove dangerous, especially for a mage. So that's a look at the different races you can find in Thedas, and though I did try to dig deep into their cultures, this is just scratching the surface of the lore behind a very complex political society. But hopefully for those of you who haven't played any of the games, it gives you some insight. And that's it for part 1 of my little mini-series looking into the basics of the lore of Dragon Age. Do you have a favourite race in Thedas, and if so, why? Let me know in the comments below, and with that, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video to help the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time for part 2.